Well, this theme is taking us to people and stories that tear at your heart. It's hard to imagine what too many parents have gone through, are going through. You may remember the story of a young boy in grade 5 who was found hanging on a coat hook in the washroom of the public school he attended in Chatham, Ontario. 10-year-old Myles Neuts was the victim of two bullies whose simple prank became deadly on February 6, 1998. Here's what Myles was looking forward to that year.
1998 wish for the world is to be more peaceful to others. My 1998 wish for my family is to be more organized and neat. My 1998 wish for me is to get my homework in on time.
Mike Neuts is Myles' dad, and he is an advocate for youth, reaching so many, really carrying the dream that his son messaged. As you talk about bullying to people everywhere, they'll open the door pretty much, Mike. It's years now, but our sincere sympathies. This was such an ugly, tragic, wasteful story. It seemed completely a waste at the time. But you've become a champion of your son's cause. And that's the blessing out of this terrible brokenness. Tell us what happened.
To Myles?
Yes.
It appears that there had been a $10 bet 2 years earlier, a 3-4 split class between an 11-year-old and my son. Periodically, Myles would run up to that boy and ask him if he had the $10. Apparently, Myles had approached him the week that he was found on the coat hook. The boy said he didn't have the $10. He said my son turned around and ran away into the schoolyard. And then a 12-year-old asked him what that conversation was about. And the 11-year-old said, 2 years ago, $10 bet, Myles won. He freaks me out, he's never forgot. And then the 11-year-old suggested, the 12-year-old said, we'll make him forget on Friday.
And it was Friday.
And it was Friday.
Unfathomably, the two culprits were not charged?
No, they were never charged. My Chatham-Kent police force has never closed the investigation. There's many of Myles's personal items I still do not have possession of. They believe it was something darker than I do. I believe it was bullying with bad consequences, but they believe other things were at hand as well.
Now, these students didn't intend for Myles to die. Why did he die?
He was wearing a T-shirt, a buttoned-up shirt, and a leather necklace, which was a gift from his best friend with his name on it, with a dolphin and a turtle. And the combination of the necklace, the T-shirt, and the buttoned-up shirt came across his jugular and cut off his air and choked him to death.
His brain was deprived of oxygen. He
Correct.
Actually technically didn't die that day, went into a coma.
Technically, he did not die that day. As the doctors later on told us when they asked my wife and I to make a decision that was very, very hard, they suggested that he had probably died in that school, but the work of the Chatham doctors and the life support machine had kept him alive for another 6 days.
So you and your wife had the terrible decision.
They came to us on our second last day in the hospital and told us that Myles was brain dead and that the only thing keeping him alive was the machine, and now it was up to us how to handle that, take him home and be his caregiver or simply unplug him. And that was a conversation that reached every emotion you can possibly imagine. It was a conversation no parent should have to have when all we did was send our children to school. And it was a decision we didn't come to lightly, and based on everything we asked of the doctors, we made the decision to unplug Myles.
You said children. There is a brother. He at the time was a grade 1 student, just 6 years old, same school.
Yes. Myles was actually his lunchtime monitor that day. And after Myles left that class and went to the library and then went to the washroom, and he never came out of the washroom. Dane is 20 years old now. He tried to put his memories of that day behind him, and now, many years later, he suggests that he's losing memories of his brother, which is another hurt to Mom and I.
This is, I really thought I can't do another one of these until I read the rest of the story. You and your wife Brenda could, and Dane, brother Dane, could just drown in bitterness and grief in this horrible story, but that is not the choice that you made.
I don't think it's who I am. It's the easy thing to do is to fall down and feel sorry for yourself. The hard thing to do is to stand up and be counted. And as much as we could have let our emotions, both good and bad, run away with us, we waited for 2 years for the coroner's inquest, which is where we finally got most of the answers. That first 2 years is as close to a bad place as I've ever wanted. I don't want to go again. But, you know, I said to Brenda, I said, if we can come out as calm, cool, and collective and actually show that we're thinking about things, maybe he will not be forgotten and we can affect change in this world.
And I think Myles is thrilled. Wait till, I want to show you this graphically, just so you all get it. Myles' full name is?
Myles Casey Benson Neuts.
And it has become a nonprofit organization, Make Children Better Now. And we probably don't have time to tell all the ways that is happening. Smile for Myles. What's that? I mean, it's a candle, for starters.
It's a candle fundraiser that was started by Myles' classmates right after the inquest ended. We put money into 4 different safety villages and a defibrillator in a Catholic high school in Chatham.
That's what it says on the back.
His nickname was Smiles, and the kids knew that, and they called it Smiles for Myles. And today, my friends that make them give them to me to hand out, and we use them as a fundraiser for Make Children Better Now.
Now, I have pages and pages. Now, some of this recommendations from the coroner's inquest. We also have, 13 items toward child safety in schools, in public places, one of them being a collapsible hook.
Correct. It was suggested during the inquest, we learned of a young girl dying from misadventure horseplay in Manitoba about 6 years earlier to Myles. It was obvious that it was horseplay and misadventure. And apparently it was suggested at a coroner's inquest into this young girl, Marilyn Dumas's death, that we get rid of these hooks in schools. That information should have went across this country, did not. 6 years later, my son dies on a coat hook in a school. Since then, I am aware of many children dying on coat hooks, far more aware than most people. Many of them since the Dairy Queen commercial 5 years ago that showed a young boy hanging on a coat hook after his brother took away his Blizzard drink. Oh. So with help from many, we pulled that commercial off the air. And I met the Henkel family from London, Ontario, who designed a collapsible coat hook with magnets. And it holds 25, 30 pounds, drops its load, snaps back into position.
And that's just one.
That's just one.
13 things that have been implemented. And I do want to say I'm so thankful for your home movies. We can see more of Myles. Though dead, he still speaks, as Hebrews says. And he is a wonderful documentary made by someone who just lives down the street.
Yes, a young lady, Jessica Halasri, in advanced filmmaking in Fanshawe, London, Ontario. She said she remembered my presentation to her, and she wanted to do her documentary on us. MakeChildrenBetterNow.org. You can see that. I know you have a list of names of people who have died by bullying. You're intimately acquainted with this issue. I want to let Myles conclude, have the last word here with